Our debate project is about VO2 max. We investigated different ways to calculate VO2 max for test subjects. VO2 max is a fitness marker that can be used to track improvements or loss of fitness over time. The standard way to measure it is with a metabolic cart in a lab setting. Our group chose to investigate alternatives that include a product called VO2 Master, which is an at-home, personal, portable metabolic cart, and the estimation of VO2 max by many smartwatches today.
Currently what's in use is the metabolic cart. On the right and below is a picture of the vintage CPX metabolic cart. These are industry standard used in hospitals. Because it's industry standard, it includes more than just the VO2 max measurement. It tracks O2 consumption, CO2 consumption, also has ECGs in most of them, all in this CPET, which is cardiopulmonary exercise training. This all-inclusive device can be up to 40 grand, as well as weighing 180 pounds total. So there's a large cost and some aspect of immobility in this device. The accuracy is about 3% or 0.05 liters per minute for the vintage CPX metabolic cart.
So the primary device that we looked at as an alternative that we thought could be a viable stand-in is the VO2 Master. So if you look at the graph on the screen, independent testing at Alma College in Michigan found that the second version of the VO2 Master had acceptable validity for VO2 max testing compared to a Parbomedics metabolic cart. The VO2 Master had an average difference in oxygen consumption of 0.3 liters per minute, which is about 6 times greater than the accepted accuracy of a metabolic cart. And the total reliability of the VO2 Master was found to be within less than 1 metabolic equivalent, which we'll discuss later is better than the accuracy of the smartwatches that we look at. The cost for this device is a little less than $6,000, according to the manufacturer's website, and that's for the entire kit, which includes the device, the app, the mouthpieces, and everything you need to actually use it, which is a lot less than the upwards of $40,000 for a full metabolic cart. Unfortunately, this device, of course, has some drawbacks and limitations because it is not a full metabolic cart. So primarily, it does not have a CO2 sensor, so it can't calculate metabolic consumption or gas exchange, which is critical for heart failure patients, and therefore cannot be used for actual diagnoses. Additionally, the device self-calibrates to environmental oxygen concentration and cannot be manually calibrated, so it can only operate within normal environmental oxygen concentrations, which means that you could not use this device at altitude or in situations where environmental oxygen concentration might be different than approximately sea level. And also, as is relatively common with medical devices, the testing for the validation was only performed on healthy male patients. So the VO2 Master might not be as reliable for patients with cardiopulmonary diseases and or women. But in the testing, it did show that it had acceptable accuracy and a converging trend of accuracy towards the upper limit of testing.
So looking at cheaper alternatives, something like an Apple Watch or a Garmin is much more accessible, but there are drawbacks. So Apple Watches give an estimation of VO2 max based off of the wearer's peak heart rate response in response to physical activity, which can lead to issues for people who take things to lower their peak heart rate, like beta blockers or calcium channel blockers. And in a test of 534 people, Apple claimed its measurement of VO2 max had an average error of around 1 met. Despite this, other popular brands like Garmin found a 5.7% difference in their recorded values, comparing themselves to lab results, along with a decent amount of variability in the results. So the drawbacks are much increased accessibility and usability for the average person, but it would be much less accurate than a lab result.
Overall, we find that the VO2 Master is most likely the best choice from a testing perspective because it's portable, easy to set up, relatively accurate, and an order of magnitude cheaper than the metabolic cart. We found that watches are cheap, which is good for accessibility, but the inaccuracy causes the data to be less usable than the VO2 Master. And the metabolic cart is probably our last pick because it's extremely expensive, time-consuming, and not portable.
And these are our references for research throughout this project.